Joining us now is former NYPD inspector and Fox News contributor Paul Mauro. Paul, we're honored to have you back. So, assuming the Guthrie family does pay this $6 million Bitcoin ransom, as they said last night in the video, we will pay. We don't know what that means and when. But what happens next in that scenario?
Well, obviously, the hope is that they will then be able to recover their mother someplace that they can get to relatively quickly. My assessment is that it's not going to be Mexico. We've talked about this just because the added difficulty to get over the border. Either way, why take that risk if you're sitting where the kidnappers are? Unless they had something really scoped out, something that was very, very sure. That's a risk you don't want to take. So you'd have to assume it's someplace in the continental United States. And the question is going to be this. Okay, they drop her off. How fast can you trace the transaction? Because once the money hits the Bitcoin wallet, it can be seen. You don't know, however, from where it's going to be extracted. Now, if the mother is, that is Nancy, is dropped off in the United States, you're going to have a race against the clock when you see it extracted to try to get to that area to see if you can pick up who the perps were. And that's the difficulty, let's say, in like ransomware, because the money gets extracted in Russia someplace, in Vladivostok, you're never going to get to it. But if it happens here, then ostensibly, you'd be able to notify the locals, FBI local office, whatever local police, and they try to get to whatever mechanism they used to extract. See, that's the problem with Bitcoin. It moves quickly, you can see it, but the vulnerability is when you take it out of the crypto environment.
Paul, thanks for bringing that expertise. I know there's a lot we can go down when it comes to that. Let's put ourselves in the position of the police officers right now. I want to remind people at home this. They're operating right now kind of irrespective to the ransom, correct? They're not necessarily operating saying, well, we can't find them, but if we pay this ransom, maybe they'll bring her to us. They're really operating kind of trying to find her and these perps without the ransom. In other words, they're not relying on her being turned over just because a ransom is paid.
No, they're certainly not. You know, look, they're going on the assumption that she is alive and that she will be returned. But right now, it's a manhunt like any other, and they're doing everything they can to try to get something that looks like a solid lead. Now, I know from outside of it, it can look like, oh, they're making absolutely no progress. You know, look, I've been in the middle of these things, and even very large task forces where you got 50, 100 people working around the clock on a very complicated thing. I can just tell you, there is a tremendous gulf between what the public knows and what's going on inside that building. So you'd have to assume right now that anything they do have, we probably wouldn't know about. Added to that is the fact that I do think this is, at this point, since we didn't get a local who breaks or somebody who comes forward, by now you'd start to think that would be the case. This is going to be the Bureau that develops this. It's going to be the FBI through some technical means that develops the lane that we go down if it ends up being fruitful. That argues likely something digital, something with expertise of that sort. They are spread out all over the place. They have units all the way back in D.C., expertise spread around the country and the world. And my point is, it may not get down to everybody right away. The cops who are out there poking around at the scene, taking photographs in the middle of the night, they don't necessarily know everything that's going on. And there could be a cluster of people in the Bureau, the FBI that is, who are making very good progress, and it only goes up. It's not going down and disseminated yet until you have to do that, until it's important, until you know it's solid. Otherwise, you got a situation where everybody's running around bumping into each other. So right now, there could be 3 or 4 people who know a lot more than even the rest of the task force, and that would be a good sign.
Paul, I'm glad you mentioned, the ongoing effort to develop those other leads, because I wanted to ask you about some of what appeared to be the investigative work that is ongoing on the ground there. Yesterday we observed investigators removing what we believe to be a camera from Nancy Guthrie's home on the roof. They towed her Subaru. Today we saw them digging around what we understand could be a septic tank.
if there's any evidence that's removed from any of these things, how long does it take to process that? You know, just take the Subaru, for example, towing that out of the house. How long does it take investigators to process that and decide, is there a lead here worth pursuing or not?
So you remove it so that you can do it in a very controlled environment. So what's more controlled than, let's say, the garage that it was sitting in? Well, you want to be able to take it where you have machinery, you have various types of computer software that you can plug into the computer that's in the car. Cars these days, remember, are like rolling computers, and they grab all kinds of data from all over the place. So you're going to want to go someplace where you can do that extraction. You also want someplace where you have very good lighting, because you're going to be doing all kinds of really, really dense and difficult forensic work. And it may come down to something like a hair that shouldn't be there after it's tested. Think about how long that kind of thing would take. That's why I always say, just because we didn't solve it, you know, these TV shows, the first 48 and all that kind of stuff, there was a point where that was relatively valid, because you would solve things like this by talking to people in the neighborhood, talking to informants. That happens relatively quickly, as I was saying earlier. These days, however, when the thing goes into data land, that means you're getting a ton of details, a ton of, some of it just looks like numbers on a page that have to be crunched. That's the kind of thing that takes time, even with AI, which is still very nascent, very much in its early stages. So the car, they're probably going over it like crazy, looking for, as I said, a hair or anything like that. Prints, the computer, they're probably going to put luminol on the car as well to see if there's any blood on the car that hadn't been picked up. Things like that in a controlled environment. And that's why they're taking it out of there so they can do it in a place that's more comfortable to them. As far as the septic tank, anybody's guess. I don't really know what they're looking for there. I will say this. There have been cases, I was on the edge of one. This one I wasn't in the room, but I know the people that did it. They pulled the drain out of the bathtub, and the bathtub drain still had enough trace amounts of blood that the perp was trying to wash off, that it led to heavy evidence against him. So think in terms of that kind of a thing. That stuff can be DNA'd as well. And of course, there's a more prosaic idea that maybe somebody fleeing the scene threw a knife or something down there, or a tool, because we know that that front Nest camera was removed. There may be tool marks, and they may be looking for a screwdriver or something like that.
Paul, two questions here. Number one, yesterday on the show, we were really interpreting line by line the statement, that video from the Guthrie family. Since then, we're sort of interpreting the silence. And you kind of alluded to this, but you've been inside these rooms. You have a lot of investigative background. Should we look at this as maybe a hopeful sign that authorities are so tight-lipped because they're getting closer? Or is there truly nothing to update us on because they don't have anything? And then potentially relatedly, what do you make of that search of the other daughter's home, Annie, and those photographs that we saw happening last night?
So let's go to the first piece. There's no way to know, as I was saying earlier, because, as I said, there's such a gulf between these things. And if they do have something, it depends on what that something is. As I said, it could be limited to a few people who are running it down. They're not sure if it's something yet or if it's nothing. Maybe all of a sudden they get back some data and they say, wow, this checks out. Here's where we're going to go. Now let's alert everybody. There's a lot of little pockets going on in it. The key in any investigation that's large, the key is that you disseminate everything to everybody when it's time to. You don't want too much white noise. Usually what you do is at the beginning of the shift and at the end of the shift, you do a hot wash, as they call. You go around the room, you talk to all the unit heads, and they all say what they got. And then at the end of the shift, you do the same thing. And if it's important, you really hit it hard. So that's the kind of thing that they're doing right now, almost certainly. But remember, if it is worth pursuing, it may still be something they don't want the public to know. And the sheriff may be reticent to come out and give a press conference. Regarding the flashes, I think you guys have talked about it. The flashes in the house last night. Look, there may be some theory here that they're trying to look to see if for some reason after the blood that we saw that has been confirmed to be Nancy's at her house, that for some reason or other, she ended back up at Annie's house. So if they're working with some kind of timeline that's what happened, they may be looking at luminol, because luminol does work better at night, and that's why you would be in the house taking photos with the lights off. That's why the only reason you'd be doing that, and maybe that's some theory, or they could be doing something else relative to corroborating the story they're getting from the people that live in that house. That piece, I have to say, smacks a little bit of really, really reaching a bit, because it's happening, what are we, eight days now out. They've already done search warrants there, but unless they got something new, that feels like they're tightening up some loose ends.
Paul Mauro, always the best. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.